Britain under Labor there is running the same disastrous circus we see here in Australia under Labor. You first jack up power prices with insane green policies and then virtually take over the steel mill that you've made uncompetitive. Now, Albanese did it with the Whyalla Steelworks, giving a $2.4 billion package with state help to pay its bills and help it to turn it green. And in Britain, that Labor government last weekend effectively took over British Steel, paying its bills and effectively running it before it sold because its Chinese owner said it would have to close. Joining me from London is writer, broadcaster and columnist Esther Krakue. Esther, this is nuts. What is the real story here? Is it the power prices, among other things, the rising costs, or is it the Chinese owners closing the company, as alleged, to make Britain more dependent on Chinese steel?
Well, the Chinese company Jingye alleged that the company was losing about £700,000 a day. So it was just completely unsustainable in their view. Now, the story of British Steel is one sorry saga of hot potato where, they had the Wilson government first privatizing it in the 1960s, and then Margaret Thatcher's government sold it off, and then it was renationalized again in 2020. Before then, it was bought again and privatized by this now Chinese owners. So for the British government to pretend like it hasn't systemically undermined steel production in the UK is absolutely ludicrous. And that, combined with the fact that we've basically made our energy prices the most expensive in the industrial developed world because of ridiculous things like net zero, or the fact that we're not taking advantage of our own natural gas resources, and the fact that we're basically dependent on the French and Norwegians for their excess energy, which they then sell to us at a markup, or the fact that, there's been no long-term thinking with our own energy. It's hard for the government to pretend as if they're saving anything when really they're just doing a patchwork and putting it like gum and plaster on a problem that successive governments have created. It's actually pathetic. They're spending upwards of £1 billion trying to save this company and the 2,700 jobs associated directly with it. But what happens next? Are they actually going to invest in steel production so we can actually produce our own steel and not be flooded in 2026 by Chinese steel when the restrictions are lifted? Are they going to reduce energy prices by investing in energy that we have? They're shutting, oil and gas production in the North Sea. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. You can't have one without the other. And so this government is clearly only doing this because it's scared of reform and the kind of momentum it's getting with these types of voters. They didn't have the same reaction when a coal power plant in Port Talbot in Wales closed last September, but somehow they brought in emergency powers and made MPs go into Parliament on a Saturday to show how serious they are about this, when really they could have done something a lot sooner.
Well, like cut power prices for all Britain. Yeah, what's a bet that the fact, union heavy steel industry, the union part might have been a factor as well. Esther, honestly, I don't know what it is with Britain, but your free speech tradition just looks sicker by the day. Latest example, a policeman telling some old gentleman that saying speak English to someone is a hate crime. Have a listen.
You've alleged to say speak English. Potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Now, what does that little confrontation tell you, Esther?
It tells us what we've already known, that we've lost our minds. If you watch the entirety of the clip, one of the people said, actually, they said speak clearly because one of them had a hearing impairment, which if I was the police officer, I would just say, okay, never mind. But what has happened to Britain is our police officers are not choosing to solve burglaries or murders or more serious crimes or detain people that walk around our streets with machetes. What they're doing is they're taking the easy way out because the government has given them an excuse by going after hate crimes. I actually don't think the police should be involved in any sort of hate crime. I think it should be a separate body that has separate funding and that is not taken as seriously, because we have bigger things to deal with, like burglaries, like serious crimes, like, people actually walking our streets with knives and with dangerous objects and being radicalized and trying to harm members of the public. But the police are not going to do that because this is an easy way. I mean, these people, the police have got to the point where they're going to journalists' houses and questioning them over a comment that was left on their Twitter 2 years ago because apparently it was a hate crime. I mean, how much easier is it to sit behind your computer and sift through the internet for hate crimes instead of breaking up fights outside of pubs and bars in London? You tell me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, be fair, Esther. Who would you rather arrest? Some street hood with a machete running around, or an elderly gentleman having a cup of coffee who's hearing impaired? I mean, stands to reason, doesn't it? Meanwhile, more illegal immigrants are pouring into Britain. On Saturday, more than 600 more boat people arrived. You've got new records being set all this year. Why is that?
Because the Starmer government have lost complete control. And it's not because they don't know what to do. It's because they do know what to do. They just don't want to do it. And I suspect, alongside rising energy prices and ridiculous house costs, this influx of illegal immigrants, coupled with the really high unsustainable levels of legal immigration, are what's going to radicalize this country come the next general election. They have completely lost control. They keep talking about arresting, the people smugglers and breaking up their network. But it's like a game of whack-a-mole. I mean, some of these gangs are making upwards of £1 million a month just from transporting people from unsavory parts of the world to the West, including France and the UK. So there's no other way to stop this than to make the UK an undesirable destination. If you come here illegally via small boats, you'll either be imprisoned on the Ascension Islands, for example, or you will be sent back. These are very basic, obvious things that the government should do. But because Keir Starmer is a human rights lawyer and has this tradition of actually not, basically acting in the interests of the British public and instead of his human rights friends, lawyers' friends, he's not going to do it. The answer couldn't be more obvious. A child could do this.
Well, I know this. For one, I think the way things are going, Esther, you should rename your border force. Have another look at the overlay I ran of the border force with these 600 boat people. What border force is actually helping people to arrive in Britain rather than, I don't know, what you do to the boats, send them back like we do, or tow them back, or I don't get it. Esther Krakue, thank you so much.
It's a taxi service. Our border service is a taxi service.
I know, that's it. Well, call it border taxi. That's it from me, folks.